You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Portions of The Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Join The Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hi, I'm Hector Marinero. You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Welcome in, everybody. We are live once again, Wednesday, Hump Day, baby, here on The Sports Fix. J-Rocc with you as we kick things off. We're going to bust through it today, get you through the middle of the week. Oh, you know what, too? The slowest week. And some of the stories, I've got something to mention a little bit later that'll tie into this. But today and tomorrow, I do believe, are the bane of sports talk radio's existence. And sports fans' existence, too, if you think about it. The next 2 days are, and it fits that they're like dead kind of in the middle of the year, two of the slowest days. I mean, you've got that gap where there's no more all-star game, so you're still in the break. There's nothing really going on. Training camps are still just ahead in the distance. The big rush of NBA free agencies passed. You're into the lull part there. World Cup just ended. Really, a whole lot of nothing going on for the next 2 days. And you'll see that in some of the things, not only that we'll talk about, but some of the things just as you see. And point those out to me, too. The ridiculous stories that'll pop out here as people are desperately grabbing to keep your attention over the next couple of days. But some artful sports talk needs to be done. Because it is truly, as we just pointed out, the slow point of the entire sports calendar. We talk about how all of the things overlap each other, and this is the thing in the middle. That's right, Charles. No, Charles in the chat room, that's exactly what everybody's going to do. I mean, that's what they do. Johnny Football, LeBron James, guarantee you that will dominate the airwaves. And I'll get to the LeBron thing, because just when the gas is rolling out, people are looking for all different angles. I saw the funniest headline about him a little bit later, but we'll get into all of that. Welcome into the Sports Fix. As I said, J-Rocc with you here, and we are rolling, and the phone lines are open for you. We want to get the conversation going early. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan is going to join us a little bit later on in the show. We're going to talk about the Jimmy Haslams settlement with him, his thoughts on the All-Star game, the Indians coming up, and I'm going to retouch upon the dog idea that Dan and I were bouncing back and forth. He started it out. I've got some other layers I want to add onto that. I think we may have a winner. I guarantee you it's better than Swagger, but I think that we may be able to put together a winner there. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. He'll be coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk Cavaliers. Mike Miller, hey, the first domino to fall, talking about the LeBron effect. We say economy and all of that. There's a place that you saw it. Man, a guy turned down significantly more money, several other places to come play in Cleveland. Mike Miller, newest member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll talk about that. Some summer league notes, some of the latest. And I got some more to say about the Dion Waiters thing. Two more stories coming out over a one-word tweet. Guys, I'm telling you, sometimes I don't know who to be angrier at more. The various arms of the media and the things that they do to the fans. No wonder sports fans and Cleveland sports fans get driven crazy, as if the disappointments on the field and courts isn't enough. Then you gotta dodge the landmines that is the modern day media. We're going to talk about all of that, the All-Star game here coming up. We'll talk some baseball here in just a minute. And we want to talk to you. Welcome into the Sports Fix, live on the sportsfix.net, on TuneIn and Spreaker and Mixler, and their respective applications and radio apps, and welcome in each and every one of you listening on delay every day, 24/7 on the world's largest internet radio provider, iHeartRadio, on iTunes, and Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, CarPlay, all the other podcast formats. Thank you guys so much once again for allowing me wherever we're at. We may be in your car, we may be in the ride, we may be in the house, maybe at the job, in your headphones, wherever we're at, while you're lifting weights, grunt it away with the Sports Fix, guys. As I said, I'm J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, and you are the people that I want to talk to first and foremost. They give me the microphone, I flip it around and give it to you. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. Pick up the phone and tell me what you're talking and thinking about today. 216-539-7535. If you can't get to the phone, use your social media, Facebook.com/The Sports Fix, or just search on Facebook for The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE, and make sure you like and follow while you're there. Join the Sports Fix social media nation, nearly 22,000 strong. The Sports Fix on Facebook and The Sports Fix CLE on Twitter. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And remember, the website, not only the place to listen to the show live, but to catch all your replays, find our social media, directly interact with us. It's all right there on thesportsfix.net. Let's talk a little bit about the All-Star game last night, the mid-season classic, 5-3, the American League with the win, which means the Indians will have home field advantage in the World Series, for those of you that want to look at it that way. I mentioned yesterday my thoughts about how silly that is right there, especially when you get into one of the notes about the game, which is the fact that Adam Wainwright, I see Charles jump the gun on me in the chat room there, but I'll in a second we'll get into him grooving the pitch for Derek Jeter. I mean, there's some reasons that I don't believe that home field advantage in the World Series should be tied into an exhibition game. But the American League wins the game last night. It's Derek Jeter's final game, and he went out there, and I'll tell you what, man, 2 for 2, made a play, but not only the signs of respect coming on and going off the field for Derek Jeter, and rightfully so, his last All-Star game. I am shocked. I've got to be honest with you. I know Mike Trout, he get his due as the MVP. I am shocked. I saw a couple of the guys in the Mixler chat room. When the show went off the air, sometimes I catch up on the comments that I missed, and I saw a couple of guys said, hey, man, he gets a hit, and he'll be he being Derek Jeter, he'll be the MVP. I told my son the same thing. I said, man, he gets an RBI and a hit here. He makes a couple of good plays in the field. All he has to do is show up. And, you know, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Derek Jeter would win the MVP, but it was Trout that ended up taking it. Became the youngest. I think it was by 3.5 months over Ken Griffey Jr., became the youngest MVP in All-Star game history. That is the future of baseball right there. I mean, Mike Trout is just a great, great player. I love watching him play, and that is that. So, hey, you know what? Michael Brantley, I'll tell you, you look at the stats, his comps to Mike Trout. I know Mike Trout is a much more highly touted prospect, but I love looking at the comparisons between the two this year because, you know, a different way to get there, but sometimes you end up at the same destination. It's tantalizing to think about where Dr. Smooth may end up here over the next couple of seasons. Last night, got his first taste of All-Star game action, 0 for 1, grounded out. Got a couple of innings of play there, though. Good to see him represent. As we said, Mike Trout, the MVP. I'm a bit shocked that Micheal Jeter didn't win it, but, you know, hey, that's the way it goes, and got to get a kick out of that. For those of you that missed the joke there, CBS News, they it was hilarious. They tweeted out, and it happens all the time. I saw some people commented on our Facebook that somebody's going to get fired, and Charles Morgan said that on one of the posts that we had out there. I don't think it goes that far. Mistakes happen, especially when I know how that happens because I've been in that situation as well, too. When things are fast moving, you start to type one thing, you type something else, then you send it out, and boom. That happens, but they sent out a tweet congratulating Micheal Jeter for his final appearance in an All-Star game, And it was rather embarrassing for CBS News because it's such a major thing, and it was all over the place, and a missed thing there. I was joking with somebody last night. I said, man, they misspelled his name on the trophy. They put Micheal Trout instead of Micheal Jeter, man. But there you go, Jeter. And I'll tell you, you got to give him credit. I know some people don't. Some people in Cleveland, I get the Yankee thing and all of that, and some people just don't do the J-Rocc Jeter thing. I do. I got nothing but respect for El Capitan, and you could see it last night. You could see you could see it in the respect, the comment in the corner of the screen, but you can see it in the respect everybody else had. Wainwright stepped back, gave him his moment. I mean, and when he came off, what a classy gesture for him to individually hit everybody. Speaking of Adam Wainwright, what I was talking about at the beginning when we first started talking about the game, just admitted after the game that he grooved it for J-Rocc Jeter. He was feeding him, I'm not lobbing it, but he was feeding him to get a hit. He straight up admitted that. Let me pull the quote up so that I can directly quote him, because then he said he was misquoted, and I'm like, man, just stick by what you said. But here he goes. He says, I was going to give him a couple of pipe shots because he deserved it. I thought he was going to hit something for a single or an out. I probably should have pitched him a little bit better. And then after the game, when everybody got all hot about it, he said, well, I misspoke. I'm not intentionally giving up hits out there. Yes, he was. I mean, whatever. The point was the point. But that's where I jump in about the home field. You know what I mean? Like, that's the goofy things that you get when you tie something really tangible into an exhibition game like this. But yeah, he fished it up, man. Right down the pipe, 90 miles an hour, set him up for that double perfectly. But don't back away from it after you say it. Micheal Jeter, like he needed help getting a hit, man. I've watched Micheal Jeter since he was this big. I've always wanted to be like Mike. I'll tell you, off the sports side too, we posted it on Facebook. This comes up a lot because it's the final run for J-Rocc Jeter here, but the dating diamond, for those of you that follow us on Facebook, we put it up. Not only does he get respect on the field, he gets respect off the field as well, especially man to man, because when you look at the 1 through 9 that he puts out on the field of the women that he's dated during his baseball career, I'm talking Tyra Banks, Minka Kelly, Jordana Brewster, Scarlett Johansson, Vanessa Manillo, Mariah Carey, Jessica Alba, Jessica Biel, Hannah Davis. I mean, El Capitan gets nothing but respect from the Sports Fix on and off the field, no doubt about that. And his final All-Star game last night, it was a good deal right there. It was definitely a nice, respectful moment in the middle of something that, is what it is. As far as I've told you guys my thoughts about All-Star games and that. And you know what, too? I was thinking about this after we got off, because one of my friends was listening along to the show. He got a hold of me afterwards. He's like, yeah, man, I think it's more just different. And he's right. If you're a hardcore, then the All-Star game in whatever sport is always going to mean more to you if you're a hardcore fan. I think with the casual fan, the difference is like the big cable overlays and stuff where everything's available. Like, it's not just the interleague play. That was kind of part of breaking the barrier down because you saw more of the National League. These matchups are not quite as unique as they used to be, but it's not just that. It's because with the cable overlay and with everything being national and with so much content being out there, I remember there were guys that I did not see play except in the All-Star game, and obviously this is in the early days of cable before like everything was overlaid nationally. So I think that's part of the appeal. And maybe I see it from that aspect too, and that does make it differently because it's still special, but it's not. But I definitely don't like, like I see Bruce talking about the voting. Like, I don't mind that they allow children to vote. I mean, kids are fans of the game too. I don't like any kind of voting in any platform that allows the multiple votes by the same person. Like, you can lock down those contests where every IP address can only vote once. And yeah, you can vote more than once if you know how to go to different things and vote. but that's going to limit. There's only going to be so many people that are going to do that. I don't know. Whatever. There's a lot of things I don't like. And I don't like the fact that the World Series is decided on that. But hey, thanks to Adam Wainwright helping Derek Jeter along, the American League gave the Indians the home field advantage in the World Series. So for that, I thank you guys very much. Hey guys, let's take a break. When we come back, phones are open, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Cavaliers. They signed Mike Miller. I got a funny story for you about the LeBron in the news. Like, you know, you don't have to work so hard to put him in the news. I mean, really, the stories write themselves, but I saw a funny one. We'll talk about that. Summer League's going on. This Dion Waiters thing driving me crazy. When we come back, we'll talk a little Cavs and NBA, and I want to talk to you. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. Be like Mike and come back with the Sports Fix.
Sometimes I feel this dream is real.
The shots I make nobody else would take.
Oh, no.
I seem to soar.
Can hear the roar like mine. If I could be like mine. Like mine. If I could be like mine.
Oh, gonna be like mine.
The Sports Fix, the show that asks the question,
What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou?
we'll be right back.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Indians fans, GV Art and Design has unleashed their new baseball collection. This summer, you've got to have one of the hottest baseball shirts available. Indians themes, GV Art has them covered from top to bottom. Chief Wahoo, keep the Chief, one of the hottest sellers going today. GV Artwork, knocking it out of the park, teaming up with Michael Brantley to create a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt, bringing back an old classic. GV Artwork, bringing out the wild thing. Give them the heater design. The Cleveland That I Glove collection continues to grow. New designs for women and so much more. GVArtwork.com, bringing it full force to the plate for baseball season this year. Whether you check them out online, GVArtwork.com, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase. Whether you go to their store in Lakewood, check them out at the Cleveland Indians team shops around Progressive Field, and so much more. GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet.
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Come on, Cavs.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live here on the Sports Fix. It's summertime. I'm taking advantage of every chance that I get to play Come On Cavs. J-Rocc back with you. Welcome back. Sports Fix live on the sportsfix.net, on TuneIn and Spreaker and Mixler and all the digital delay applications as well. Hit us up on the phones. They're open. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. We're talking about the Cavaliers. First things first, let me start off talking about the news from yesterday. Right as we went off the air, it came through final. Mike Miller agrees to terms to come and play for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, hey, obviously the LeBron factor plays into that. LeBron asked him to come here and play, and that played a big part in that because he turned out. You don't say, I've got to actually say this sentence with a straight face because you don't get the chance to say this much in Cleveland, but he turned down more money, several other places, to come and play in Cleveland. Guys don't necessarily do that very much. So clearly, obviously, coming here to play for a championship, wanting to come and play, and that's a guy that LeBron feels comfortable with. We talked about that, Mike Miller, Ray Allen. I don't want to become the Cleveland Heat. I don't want everybody and their mother, but, a couple of guys definitely will help, and there's a ton of youth on this team. I always joke and say the whole team's 20 years old, but part of that is a joke, part of it's not, and so I like Mike Miller. I like that he's gutty and gritty, and I like Mike Miller. Plus, he's a shooter, So I'm with it. The terms that I saw was 2 years, $5.5 million. Turned down 3 years, $12 million from Denver. There was a couple of other teams that jumped in there too. Dallas, Houston. I don't know if they got to the point where there were hard offers on the table for Miller with those teams, but I know they were in there, especially because they went to. That's one affordable asset that the Cavs could add right away without a trade. And that was an attempt, I think, to end run the Cavs from doing that. But at the end of the day, Miller turns that down, signs with the Cavaliers. That is the next domino to fall when it comes to the Cavs and the squad that they're putting together. I've got more to say about that. I'm going to go to the phones, too. Callers are coming in, 216-539-7535. While we're on the subject of LeBron, we talked about it. And, hey, there's a lot of angles of this story. We've talked in the last few days about it. It's a big, evolving story. And remember, was it yesterday or Monday when I mentioned how the first round of happy, feely, lovey homecoming stories, everybody's done that locally and nationally. So I said, now you're going to see that search for the next wave of articles. What's the next narratives that people can tell? The business aspect, the money. We talked about a lot of that yesterday, and that's starting to be it. And I said this is the slow season. I said the next 2 days are like the bane of sports talk because it's the true lull in the entire year's sports. It's that one area where things don't really overlap. So people look for news and reach and LeBron, and it all ties in to this. I was rolling through looking at, whatever was the latest stuff on Cleveland.com, which is the website of the local Plain Dealer, the newspaper here in Cleveland, and I come across this is a news story on one of the slowest news days of the year here. Jail fight over LeBron James returning to Cleveland leaves confessed killer with a broken nose, and it comes with video attached too, as they found a way to make a story out of that. Apparently there was a fight, some inmates, one happy, one not so happy about LeBron coming to Cleveland. So see, it affects everyone. It affects us on the streets, and it affects those in the pokey, baby, but I just laughed. I'm scrolling, I'm looking at some headlines and some scores, and then I see jail fight over LeBron James returning to Cleveland leaves confessed killer with broken nose, and I feel really bad for that confessed killer, by the way, but it's just funny how it overlaps, and then that's what you look for, by the way, on a slow news day, is that story right there. But I'm going to keep going. I've got some stuff to say about the news. This Dion Waiters thing really ticking me off. On Facebook during the break, had some back and forth with some people here. I'll get into that. Not calling anybody out. It's not a big deal. I love the different opinions, but I definitely have a different opinion than the majority of the public right now, but I think it is the media's fault. I think they're totally stirring this Dion Waiters story up. But before we get to that, I want to get to you. Caller, you're next up on the Sports Fix.
Yeah, good morning, J-Rocc. Speaking
Good
of
morning.
slow news days and LeBron,
Okay.
WTAM this morning with...
Who's that? I don't know who that is. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. TAM. Yeah, go for it.
One of our local news people, I don't want to mention any names, but Mike
go ahead.
Trevisano.
I don't care. Triv, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to apparently, keep with the Cleveland tradition. He ran an article this morning about, remember when LeBron said if Sterling is still the owner of the Clippers, he won't play? So he's going on with this thing, he'll protest the season. And he actually made a promise that if Sterling was still the owner, that he would not play. So this morning he kind of went on a rant about, what's this do for the city of Cleveland now that LeBron's not going to play? So
I don't know. I don't remember. I remember talking about that when that was happening. And of course, we had no idea LeBron was even going to leave Miami. But I said, man, all of these players who have mentioned it. I don't know that LeBron went so far as to promise it, but he definitely, the stories were out there that he was one of the players that would consider, and that was as far as I heard it. I never heard any promise. I heard would consider boycotting the start of the next season. I believe when LeBron was asked about it, he said something to the effect of, I would have to seriously think about it. So he did.
Right.
I think that was as close as he came to committing. But
yeah, he did backtrack after he had made the statement.
But I made that point that you had several. He wasn't the only one. He was just the most notable. But there were several guys that made that. And I said, hey, guys, legally, this thing is not. Remember, when it was starting, I said, I don't think this thing will be wrapped up by the time the next basketball season starts. There's just, unless he was to walk away. Now, if Sterling walked away, that was the only way that the NBA was going to get that thing wrapped up by the start of the next season. And it looks like that may be true. Although they say with the probate thing that he's going through with the wife and trying to determine if they were able to make that sale, they say they're going to have that done. I think it's within 30 days or something. So I do believe that if they do find that he's not competent, then the sale will stand and that will be over and they will be able to move forward. But if they find that he was competent, then he's going to nullify the sale. And then the whole thing starts all over again. The NBA, which is why if they wanted him out, they really should have went ahead and did the vote, even though she agreed to sell the team. I think they were smart, and I think they may be working in concert on this whole thing, and people just may be getting snowballed by it, thinking maybe not. Maybe the wife really is on the opposite side of him, but they also are protecting similar interests legally, and I find it interesting that by her making that sale and now him contesting it, the NBA did not go through with their vote, because if they had, then they could still move forward on their end regardless and independent of what was going on in the courts right now. But they didn't. They canceled that vote. So now they're going to have to reschedule. If they find out that he's able to cancel this sale, then the whole thing starts over, and they will not have it done by the time the season starts. So it'll be interesting, the position that those players are in. But my argument is you can't hold the league responsible for the legal aspect. As long as the league did everything that they can do, and I think that vote is bad. They should have done it, because that's something that they should have done. But if they've done everything they can do, then I don't think the players can hold the NBA responsible. It's not like they're standing by whistling Dixie while this guy is doing what he wants. They got rid of him. Now he's fighting it in the courts. I don't think that you can. I think the players would be wrong for doing anything at that point, because it's not the league's fault at all what's going on.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, the players really have nothing to do with it other than they're a victim of circumstance.
Right. What else is happening, my man? Mike Miller to the Cavs. You like it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. My only problem I have with any of this is that nobody would have came if LeBron hadn't have showed up. But, I mean, that's just, they're here for LeBron. But then again, the guy's bigger than money, I mean, if you can turn down that kind of money because you want to play with LeBron, I say, hey, bring them all here. You know, Kevin Love can't be far behind. And Ray Allen, he would bend over backwards to play with LeBron again. So, I'd say bring them all here.
Ray Allen, I got to tell you, and we can do this any day of the week you want to do it, Bruce, but I was going to talk about Summer League and what we've seen. And, offensively, Andrew Wiggins is still clearly a work in progress. But, man, just the limited portions we've seen athletically, defensively, some of the things that he's got, man, I know some people will say, oh, man, well, I don't care what he's going to be in 2 or 3 years. I do, because I think his high end is extremely high, and I think whatever his ceiling is, he can make it higher playing alongside guys that can play. And whatever this team, I don't know if it's just going to be LeBron and Mike Miller or Ray Allen or if there's other veterans, but these level of guys that have played at the highest level, I think that will accelerate Andrew Wiggins' growth process, man, and I don't want to trade him. I think that if that is what it takes to get Kevin Love, then I am just not interested in having Kevin Love. I'm very intrigued by putting a couple of vets with LeBron. I like Ray Allen. I like Mike Miller. That's it. I like those. And man, you've got to get another big man. You got to get another center. But
okay, even at that though, Love is a free agent at the end of the year, so all we have to do is wait a year and we'll get him anyway.
I said that at first, but I was wrong about that only because of the salary cap deals. Now, that things could change, and you could always still get a sign and trade before the contract expires, things like that. So there is ways to do it then, but it becomes more cost prohibitive because you're going to have Kyrie's max contract on the books. Because it kicks in next year, and you're going to have LeBron's on the books as well. So there's ways to get it done. You're right. That's why I would not overpay. If you can get a good deal, then yes, I'm not turning away Kevin Love. The guy can ball, man. I mean, defensively, the Cavs will be able to cover some of his shortcomings with LeBron, with Wiggins. That's why I'm saying Wiggins can defend no matter what. And him and LeBron together out on the wings defensively is a hell of a thing for another team to have to deal with. And you've got Tristan down low. You've got Varejao. That you get another big man down there. And that's the one guy that we got rid of that I didn't like was Zeller, because I thought he could develop into a decent piece, for a good team. But whatever, that's done. But man, defensively and just in general, I don't want to part ways with Andrew Wiggins. And I don't want to part ways with Dion Waiters either. I'm not as anti-trading Dion Waiters as I am Wiggins, but I don't want to trade him either. I don't want to trade any of the youth. I'd love to go a year and just see what these guys can turn into in 6 months. You know what I mean?
Well, the biggest argument that I see is that Wiggins hasn't played, one professional game yet.
That's true.
And we already know what Kevin Love can do.
Let me jump in real quick. That's not stopping these same Cleveland fans who say Wiggins hasn't played a game yet. That's not stopping the same ones from building a John Manziel statue. Now, is it? No.
Not a bit.
No.
Not a bit. I totally agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? So you can make that same argument both ways. But I know what you're saying. I know it's potential. But I just think that it's so much potential that it's too tantalizing to walk. Give it a year. I mean, see what you've got. See it up close. I mean, and if you want to say LeBron as well, he's going to play with these guys. Give him a year to play with these guys so that he can then, I'm not saying he tells you who stays and who goes, but you always talk to your top guys and you say, hey, who can ball? And he can go, hey, man, Wiggins has got it, or he doesn't got it, or you know what, or all of them. And then you got a better idea for how these pieces are going to fit together. I'm just saying, if LeBron made it very clear that he does not have to win right now, he's willing to spend a year or two putting this together, then don't sell the farm. Now, if LeBron came in and said, I have to win now, we have to, then that's different. Then you have to do everything you have to do to win right now. But when he is telling you that we're going to build this, then that's giving you the chance to build it right. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you waste years. Don't waste years. But, man, I think this team can be pretty damn good as currently constructed.
Oh, no doubt. And, like I said, everything that I've heard about the coach, the players are just, they rant and rave about this guy.
Look at some of the. You can see.
So
some of his
we
coaching.
didn't go wrong there.
Exactly, and I keep going back to Bennett. And now what's funny is a lot of you out there are hitting me up like you just saw Anthony Bennett and you're telling me something. When I told you guys months ago he was going to be the comeback player next year and to look out for him, because now everybody's just now, hey man, have you seen? Yes, I have seen him.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't seen this guy yet, but he does look like the totally different guy than he was a year ago.
I was joking with somebody yesterday. I said, this is the guy. Now, who knows what his stats will be, but just looking at him, I said, this is who Chris Grant thought that he drafted yesterday. Matter of fact, Chris Grant was talking to security on draft reporting day. He was going, hey, yeah, tell that pizza delivery guy there that move his car because Anthony Bennett's going to be pulling up any minute now. And then that is Anthony Bennett.
That is him.
So, and I'm just joking. But he came in a totally different person. Chris Grant did not know that he was going to get 2 Anthony Bennetts when he drafted him. But all joking aside, the kid got his stuff together, got himself in shape, came in looking like a monster this year. Look at everybody, and I'm talking to you that's listening right now. Everybody, when they put together their fantasy Cavs team next year, they're going, man, whether you want Love or not, you're throwing him in there. You're going Kyrie and LeBron and Tristan Thompson, and man, you got Wiggins, and nobody mentions Anthony Bennett. And I'm like, bro, if he plays like a shadow of what he was thought to be when Chris Grant drafted him, man, that's a whole piece that people are just discounting, and I think that he can really... He's going to show this year. And the point that I remember on Monday, I said, if he worked this hard when he thought he was going to be coached by Mike Brown and was going to be on basically the same team that he was on this entire season, then how hard is he going to work, and how hard is every one of them to a man going to work now that they know that they're a championship level team? Whether they're a champion this year or not, they're in the discussion now. Watch how hard Anthony Bennett, all of these guys, I think you leave this group together and let them go. And for people that say Wiggins doesn't have basketball IQ, I get offensively he's a work in progress, but I mean, he's got, not that, second generation NBA is a guarantee of anything, but to me, you cannot be totally devoid of basketball IQ when your dad was balling in the NBA. When you grew up with that mindset and being taught some of those things, you've got a little bit of an idea of what you're doing. So I'm intrigued.
Vashawn just made a good point in the chat room that if Bennett can get you 14 points a game, if he can just add a little bit to what he started to show us last year,
I know,
along with the body that he's got now, I know there's no reason that we would need a Kevin Love, because he would make up the difference.
And I'll tell you what, talking about Bennett, we joked that it's unfair, the comparisons that people make, and people made that Larry Johnson comparison to him. That's not a fair thing to put on him. But a couple of the dunks that he threw down in Summer League, I said, now that deserves the Larry Johnson comparison, because that was throwing it down with some power and with some authority, and you're like, man, that dude would have never done that last year. Last year,
it's the difference between night and day. I mean, he went from dinner bell Mel Turpin to
Mel Turpin, man. You know what? I remember Mel Turpin because when I was a kid, I was big on I loved those Michael Jordan home videos that would come out. Air time and hang time. Every year there'd be a different one. And I remember Mel Turpin was one of the Michael Jordan stories that he told about, like, when a guy, what was it? Oh, that was what it was. He was playing against Dallas. I think that was who Turpin played for, wasn't it? The Mavericks, Dallas or something like that. I don't know. But whoever it was, Jordan dunked on a small guy. And one of the fans jumped up and said, or maybe one of the coaches jumped up and said, do that to somebody your own size. So then he came down and he dunked on Mel Turpin on the next one, ran down the court, looked at the guy and said, was he big enough for you? And, of course, Mel Turpin's huge, But anyways,
right.
That's what I remember. So go ahead.
I remember Joe Tate saying that they went to an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord place one time and they were asked to leave because Mel kept eating them out of the house and home.
Exactly.
So the guy could definitely eat. That's all I have.
All right, my man.
You take it easy.
Thanks
Have
for
a
the
good
call.
day,
You
J-Rocc.
too. Excellent phone call. Anytime you get a Mel Turpin reference, that was an excellent call. 216-539-7535. Back to what I was talking about before Bruce called in. And again, 216-539-7535. But looking at the Dion Waiters story, I want to go back because we were talking about that kind of unveiled as we were on the air. Remember, we were on the break and I saw these people flaming on Dion. I said, what is going on with Dion Waiters? And it was that story that has now just continued. I see it all over, and I've watched people share it all night long on Facebook and retweet it, and everybody is just, the swell of negativity on Dion Waiters just continues to grow here over the fact that he replied to a tweet that asked him if he was going to accept coming off the bench, and he said no. And I'm telling you, if he would have said yes, I don't want him on my team, especially now that we are on that upper level and talking about competing for championships, not trying to win enough games to be the 8th seed in the playoffs. I mean, there's a different mindset about it. But I mean, regardless, that's a winning mindset. First off, let me start with the point that the Cavaliers don't have a rotation yet. Not one person on the Cavaliers has told Dion Waiters, you are coming off the bench this year. We expect you to be a 6th man. So at this point, Dion Waiters has every bit of a chance to be a starter as Andrew Wiggins or anybody else. And you can say no, but I'm just saying in his mind, that's the truth. In his mind, he has every bit of chance to be a starter on this team as anybody else, and I wouldn't want him to have any different mentality. So if you had asked him the question after the Cavaliers said, we've decided Dion's our 6th man, even then, maybe you give him a little bit of flack. But in the middle of the summer, when the Cavs roster is not even finished being put together, for a tweet, this wasn't even a face-to-face conversation, this wasn't the media, this was a fan who tweeted to Dion Waiters and said, will you accept being on the bench? And he said, no, I won't. It was just no. It was a very simple answer. And I don't understand what the problem is with that, but that turned into a Bleacher Report article, which has now been sourced with other people's articles. So it's like a game of telephone where one person whispers something to the next person, but they each are sourcing other. So now it looks like a legitimate story. Now the story is out there on websites everywhere. Just Google search Dion Waiters. Before you even finish with the word hates, you'll have these articles. It'll pop up and automatically fill it for you because there's these articles out here that he hates the idea. Here's the one from Bleacher Report. The title of the article is Waiters Hates the Idea of Not Starting. Where did you get, all because of a tweet where he said no, he will not accept coming off the bench. And I'm so aggravated because that's ridiculous. It's terrible reporting. It's terrible, if you want to even call it reporting. It's terrible journalism. And look, I'm watching what it does to the fan base. You have completely uninformed people. One of my friends hit me up last night. What's up with your boy Dion Waiters? You know, we always, whenever somebody gets in trouble, a group of my friends, we always use the term your boy, you know. It's like, hey, that's your boy, not my boy. But anyway, so I get the what's up with your boy Dion Waiters, and I'm like, nothing. He just wants to play ball, man. Like, I don't get how that turned into it. So, and I see it more and more and more. And just because something is put on a nice looking website with some banner ads and some news stories and you can click on it and share it and do all that stuff and it's got bright, pretty colors, it does not mean that it's a credible story and that it's news. And we talked about it being a slow news day, right? And boom. And actually, if you're not a baseball guy, this whole week fits that category, really. And this is the type of stuff that you get. But, you know, how many people, and I admit that over the years I've done it, you'll probably admit that you've done it too. How many times have you scrolled down your news feed on Facebook because we've got 5,000, we're maxed out with the friends, so there's a ton of people. How many times have you scrolled down and seen headlines? And of course, a lot of times I will click and read because I've learned not to look, but especially earlier in my days, even just a few years back as I continued to grow, I would see a headline and that would be it. And look, so think about it. You're rolling down your newsfeed and you see Waiters hates the idea of not starting. Waiters will not sit on the bench. Waiters refuses to take lesser role. Well, you see that. you're thinking that this guy's causing a problem and he's being a malcontent and he's got to go. How could you have this attitude when the great LeBron James has come back to Cleveland? And, like, that is not at all what any of this has to do with. And you know what? You want to talk about attitude? I just answered this on Facebook, actually. I told a guy who was arguing with me, I said, you want to be honest about attitude? Last year, I'll take Dion Waiters' attitude over Kyrie Irving's attitude, and I'm just being real. The end of last season, I was happier with Dion's attitude than I was with Kyrie's. And I like Kyrie. You guys know I'm one of the people that takes his side and also criticizes him. But I take his side on certain issues. I'm not as anti. There's some people that are just not convinced on Kyrie at all, and he's got a lot of work to do. But my point is the attitude, not that right now. And with the attitude, Dion's was better than Kyrie's a lot of times last year. So I feel bad. I don't feel bad for, Dion. He's a grown man. He'll deal with this. But I feel bad for the fans that not only do they get misinformed, but they're fooled by it. And then they, in turn, share it. And if they knew, how many people would just retweet a tweet, of Dion? Nobody got all into that. But the story with the blazing headline, that gets shared everywhere. So, and there it is. So when you hear for the next couple of days about how Dion's got to go, Dion's causing trouble, I'm sure right now somewhere Sports Talk Radio is burning up in Cleveland. We got to get rid of Dion Waiters. This guy's going to take the whole LeBron ship down with him. And then next year LeBron's going to want to be a free agent. And when you ask him why, he's going to say it's all because they wouldn't get rid of Dion Waiters. He's got to go. So that all comes from a guy saying, man, I'm going to be a starter on this team next year. Coach hasn't told me I'm not. My boss hasn't told me I'm not. Last time I got my paycheck, Dan Gilbert didn't tell me I'm on the bench. So why are you going to tell me I'm on the bench and then get mad at me when I don't accept your evaluation that I'm going to be on the bench? Get out of here with that noise. Plus, the last point that I'll make, why do you think Dion Waiters is so good coming off the bench? Because he's got a chip on his shoulder because he doesn't think he should be coming off the bench. He does it, and he does exactly what he was told to do, but he's ticked off and pissed about it the whole time, and that's what makes him effective coming off the bench. That's the psychology of it. That's why it worked. Anyways, there you go. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get you some news, and then Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan joins us. We'll talk to him about the latest with the Jimmy Haslams settlement. Is it or isn't it settled? All-Star game, Tribe coming up in the second half. We're going to go back to the Dogs, and I'm talking about the Dogs, literally, not the Browns, the Dogs that are going to lead the Browns onto the field. Swagger. Dan Wismar had a good idea on Monday. I think I can expand on that here. I've got even a little different layer to add to that, but we'll talk some more about that, and who knows what happens. It's always a good time when Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan joins us, so we're going to take a break, get you the news, come back with Dan Wismar, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. Hour 2 of the Sports Fix coming your way next.
How you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. Tell me, how you gonna do it if you really won't take a chance? By standing on the wall. Get your back up off the wall. 'Cause I heard all the people saying, get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear has finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Of course, you know during Brown season, we're there each and every week. What a fun time it was last year. But not just that, so many more reasons for you to check out the Harry Buffalo today. The UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever your Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Hey, this is Scott Fujita, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. He led the NBA in triple-doubles last season, but guard Lance Stevenson is now taking his talents from Indianapolis to Charlotte. ESPN's Chris Broussard reporting Stevenson has signed a 3-year, $27 million contract with the Hornets. He rejected a 5-year, $44 million deal to remain with the Pacers. Forward Drew Gooden has signed a 1-year contract to stay with the Washington Wizards. This according to multiple reports. ESPN's Ramona Shelburne reporting the Lakers will interview Byron Scott today for the 3rd time as they continue their search for a new coach. Well, who wrote this script? In his 14th and final All-Star game, Derek Jeter went 2 for 2 and scored a run in the American League's 5-3 win last night in Minneapolis. He also received 3 prolonged ovations.
It makes me feel great. I mean, this is what it's all about. I mean, baseball, the fans have been great to me my entire career, whether we're at home or on the road. And you appreciate moments like this, and this is definitely something I'll remember.
In those 14 All-Star game appearances, Jeter went 13 for 27. Detroit Red Wings coach Mike Babcock says he wants a contract extension by the fall, or he wants to wait until after the season to resume negotiations.
Forget the holidays. The best time of year is fantasy football season, and the most important decision is where to host your draft party. So go with the league favorite. With wall-to-wall TVs and hand-spun wings, there's no better way to kick off the season. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings. Beer. Sports.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. Heading into hour 2 here on the sportsfix.net and on Spreaker and TuneIn and Mixler and all the digital delay applications as well on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, all the podcast formats as well. J-Rocc back with you here, and waiting just a moment from now, my man Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan will be on with us. You heard in the break, I actually meant to get into this when we were talking hoops in the last segment there, but Lance Stevenson heads to Charlotte to the Hornets there. I love calling them the Hornets again. I really do. I never got into the Bobcats thing, man. You know, it's like the Jake. It's always going to be the Hornets to me, and now it's the Hornets once again. It's fitting. I'm glad they got it. Didn't feel right. I don't like the Pelicans, but it didn't feel right saying the Hornets were in New Orleans either. So good to see that. Lance Stevenson going over there, though. That you see teams. Really a lot of changes, a lot of movement here in this NBA offseason. Not just us here in Cleveland, but look at Washington. We talked about them. They signed Paul Pierce. They trading for Humphreys. They're keeping good in there. They're trying to add some pieces to the young core that they've got there. Washington, a team that will continue to improve over the next few months there. So it's still a lot more free agent dominoes to fall, as we've seen in the last couple of days. But really, and it's good for a league to have an off season every once in a while that really shakes things up. I think we see it in all the leagues. Sometimes you have a few where there's some big moves, but it's kind of, you know, the status quo. But I think we've seen some real shakeups. I like what Dallas has put together there. I think that they have definitely improved their stock in the West, and there's a very competitive Western Conference out there, and there's still some pieces to fall, a lot of things that can continue to fall in place, but you see it. It's far from just Cleveland here. I think it's going to be a shock to the system of the NBA coming up here this next season, and that's good. That's a good thing, like I said, for any league. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. Going to the phone lines here, my man Dan Wismar. You can't call, but you can get on Facebook and Twitter now. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix, CLE, all one word. Don't forget, if you listen on the website or if you use Mixler, you can use the chat room. If you're on the website, you can actually contribute to the chat conversation right there on the website through the little player. You just click in the box there at the bottom of it, right at the top of your screen, and you can email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com, because the phones are taken up by my man Dan Wismar. How you doing this Wednesday, brother?
I'm doing great, J-Rocc. How's things by you?
Fantastically fine over here. It's a Wednesday. Matter of fact, it's not just a Wednesday, but it's half over here already. We're pushing our way through it, so doing well, man. Doing well.
Well, good. Yeah, I hope you stayed up and watched the All-Star game last night. It was entertaining and good for us American League fans.
Absolutely. Indians secure home field advantage because they were hooking up Derek Jeter with a couple of good pitches. I'll take that.
Yeah, did you think there was some grooving going on there?
I don't know, but I did.
Wainwright denied it, but he threw the ball on the outside corner at least.
He denied it later, but he kind of insinuated it at first, you know. But I was laughing at that because Derek Jeter can still play ball. Like, when I read that, I thought, okay, maybe they did, but do you really have to groove a pitch for Derek Jeter? Like, is he at that? Is he really, like, is he on one leg? Is old Yeller ready to go behind the barn? Like, you know what I mean? I thought you could have just pitched to him. He can still play some ball.
Yeah, that's true. And it really brings up what I think is one of the dumber rulings or decisions that's been made in recent years in any sport, and that is that the All-Star game matters.
Yes.
From the standpoint of home field advantage. I mean, if you're, the people want to say, okay, it's an exhibition. The fans deserve to see the players that they want. Forget about the best players in the first half in Major League Baseball. They want to see the biggest names in Major League Baseball. Sometimes those are the same guys, and sometimes they're not. But what we always hear is, well, it's an exhibition game, and the fans want to see Derek Jeter, even if he's having a mediocre first half. Well, then fine, but then don't make it count for World Series home field. You can have one or you can have the other, but you shouldn't mix the two because they're not compatible.
I agree with you. I made that same point yesterday. I made it earlier in the show today. I think that's just a ridiculous way to try to add some credibility to an event, is to put something tangible on the line and something that is an exhibition. I mean, just that I know the method behind it, and they think that makes it important. But I think instead of making the All-Star game more important, it makes a joke out of a portion, not the whole thing, but it makes a joke out of part of your championship. Instead of making the one thing better, it makes the other thing a little bit worse. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's really what happens, and the home field advantage should be based on merit. It's always done that. It's done that way in basketball and football. If you're the top seed, you get the home field, and if you have a better record than the champion of the other league, you should have the home field advantage. And it shouldn't have anything to do with what players on the other 28 major league teams did on one day in July. It just makes no sense at all to me to have it. And if you want the All-Star game to matter, it matters to most fans because they get to see the best players in the game play. And I just think it was an ill-advised decision by Bud Selig, maybe his dumbest decision in 20 years, and that's a high bar to get over.
I was going to say, you're covering a lot of ground there, man.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense anymore, and it just, as the years go by and we say, well, we really shouldn't have Alexi Ramirez, the best shortstop in the American League, starting the game because Derek Jeter and everybody wants to see Derek. Well, fine. Well, then just don't hinge the World Series home field advantage on it because if you're making decisions on emotion, then it's not fair to the two teams that get into the World Series to do it that way.
Absolutely not. And since this doesn't help the All-Star game, regardless if you agree that it tarnishes anything that has to do with the championship, it doesn't help the All-Star game. And if baseball's flip side to that is, well, we have to do something to make the All-Star game mean more, I think that ship has sailed. I mean, it really has. It is an exhibition, and everybody knows that. You cannot attach tangible results. And if you are, then you cannot, like you said, you can't make the entertainment decisions. At that point, it has to be it's that line between sports and entertainment that you walk with an exhibition game like that. And when it's not real, when the results don't matter, you can be as entertaining as you want. But when they're legit, yeah, exactly right, man. You can't make those feel-good decisions. So I think it's a joke, too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there.
No,
I was just going to say that already in baseball, and it's the All-Star game, and again, talk about a low bar to get over. Of all the professional sports league All-Star games, it's already the most entertaining, I think probably the most widely watched. The NBA may be getting close, but the NBA All-Star game is a joke in terms of defense. The Pro Bowl in football has been a joke for years in terms of players giving their best effort and having anyone give anything but a yawn when the Pro Bowl comes around. So baseball, at least because it's in the middle of the season and because you do see the best players in the game at their best, it's already at the top of the heap in terms of professional sports league all-star games. I'm sort of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess, is my feeling on it. It's already by far the most compelling of them. And some people like the NBA All-Star game, but it's a yawner for me. So I don't think they need to do anything else to make it quote-unquote relevant or important or significant.
No, I think back, it's just because I was younger. I think back to my younger days, and that's when I really enjoyed all of the All-Star games, the Pro Bowl. I thought it was cool until I realized I got a little more savvy because the concept of it, you think, yeah, it's the best players playing against each other. This is great, man, and I'm going to see Bernie Kosar throw a pass to Jerry Rice or whatever, just making stuff up, but I couldn't have seen that because they played in different leagues, but anyway, conferences, but you know what I'm saying. And then you grow up and realize that they're, walking through things and they're playing in shorts and they're hitting on the luau girls on the side and nobody's actually trying to tackle each other, and you go, man, this game's not a whole lot of fun after all. Football is the worst, I will give you that. When they added the computers a couple years ago, I went off. I said, come on, now we're live tweeting on the sidelines. We might as well just be barefoot playing in the sand. Let's play beach football at this point, man, because this thing's a joke and a half.
The appeal of the All-Star game in baseball was always getting a chance to see the National Leaguers because we didn't get to see them any other time. There was no interleague play. The television aspect of the game wasn't nearly as rich as it is now. And I just saw a picture yesterday on Twitter of the National League starting outfield in 1966. It was Roberto Clemente, Henry Aaron, and Willie Mays. You know, that's the kind of stuff that had appeal for me back then. The greatest players that you heard about, but you never saw them when you go to the stadium in Cleveland, and you never saw them really on television to speak of, except for the All-Star game. That was our chance to see those great national leaguers that we just really could see no other time on television.
I mean, it was the same for me. Really, anybody who up through the 90s, up through when they added the interleague play and then really the expansion of the television where you could see everybody, because, you know, during the 80s, you know, which is the era when I was growing up, you had the game of the week. So you got to see guys from the National League, maybe the ones that were good, the Dodgers, whatever teams were hot in those years. You'd see them on the game of the week, and the All-Star game was the only time that you could see those matchups, because obviously the Indians weren't playing in many World Series during the 80s, so that was it. And so it was cool to me then, and you're right, that one has held up the most, but I think they all lost just some of the luster when you could see everybody every night. And that comes with it. With availability, people become less of a must-see thing, you know?
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's saturation nowadays, and if you've got apps like MLB at Bat, or even just watching baseball tonight or MLB.TV, you can see every player, every game, highlights of every game every night, and it really is to the saturation point, and there's not a lot of mystery there, or hey, I really want to watch this game to get a chance to see, Bryce Harper, or get a chance to see Mike Trout. It's a whole different thing, and you see the generation. It's interesting to watch the guys like Mike Trout playing in his his second All-Star game, and Derek Jeter playing in his last, and you sort of see the generations and how one guy goes out as the other stars are coming in, and that's always interesting and compelling to see. But there's so much video available now that you don't need the All-Star game to catch a glimpse of players that you can't see any other time.
Yeah, Dodgers fans, have probably seen as much Mike Trout as Angels fans have. You know what I mean? In this day and age. So, but still, those are some of the cool things, and the really classy with Jeter. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. Not only the moment that the fans and the other players gave him when he came up, but when he went out, the moment that he gave back too, and he went and spent a minute and went around to everybody, and just that was good stuff. And those are the cool moments that baseball provides. Yeah, and I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that baseball also does that better than anybody else.
Agreed.
In terms of having those moments, having a guy be able to walk off, the field in the way that they staged it, you see those kinds of things, and baseball appreciates those things. Baseball fans appreciate them, and I think baseball pulls them off more effectively than other teams can. And part of it is just the way the game is set up, where you can, replace a player anytime you want to during a game, and that sort of thing. They'll occasionally do that with big players in basketball as well. You can call a timeout to take a player off the court in his last game or his last season or whatever. But I think baseball just stages those things and executes them better than the other sports do.
I was waiting for you to come on, and he didn't even know where I was going, but you just set this up absolutely perfect with what we said, talking about moments that baseball creates. I was a bit disappointed, and I think a lot of other baseball fans all over were, that they missed and didn't do an opportunity to do just that for something that baseball is usually so good at. I mean, less than a month. It's been a month today, I believe.
Tony Gwynn?
Yeah, since Tony Gwynn passed away. 15 All-Star appearances during his career. Every year except one. He was a National League All-Star, and not a video, not a mention, not a moment, nothing. It was all Jeter all night, but I mean, I was shocked that there wasn't just some moment of something there, especially with him having spent basically his entire career in the All-Star game. Baseball's usually good at that stuff.
Yeah, you're right, and you wonder, as we sit here now in hindsight, whether it was an oversight, or whether there was some method to it or some reason why they didn't do it.
Dan,
I mean,
I don't think
so.
let me
Obviously,
jump
I
in.
don't know the answer to that, but I'd be interested to find out down the line, and maybe we will, maybe we won't. Whether there was some reasoning behind it, or some compelling reason why they chose not to do anything for Gwynn. Who knows?
But they did. See, that's the thing. I don't think it was an oversight because they did do I didn't see it, but I looked it up. They did do a little video tribute, but it was on the pregame show that aired on Fox Sports 1. It was not on the network anything. It was on the Fox Sports 1 pregame show, which does a fraction of the ratings of what the network stuff does. And so they did take the time to make one. And I'm just surprised when I saw that, because usually when a place does that, they'll do it again during the game. That exact same package that they ran during the pregame thing or whatever, they'll run it during the game. And I just could not believe that they couldn't find 45 seconds to run a little thing for Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, that's too bad, and because he clearly is one of those guys that is what you might call a destination type player, a guy that fans will go out just to see him. He's that level of talent and that great a player that he's one of those guys that back in the old days you would watch the All-Star game just to see Tony Gwynn play.
I don't know, just something I wanted to bring up with you, and I figured you would appreciate that too, being old school like I am. Hey, let's talk baseball, but let's shift off the All-Star game. Here's a good segue to that. Michael Brantley, first appearance, got a chance to go out there, and I remember growing up, especially when I wouldn't stay up for when I was really younger and I couldn't stay up and watch the end of some of the All-Star games, getting up the next day, looking at the box score, I know there was kids today that probably did that, looking to see what the Indians guy did, and you'd go, oh man, Corey Snyder went 0 for 1, or he got in the 7th inning, or whatever it was. I don't know did Snyder ever make one? I thought he made one All-Star game, because everybody makes one every team gets one guy. I think he might have got one, but anyways.
Yeah, I remember the year Charlie Nagy got a base hit in the All-Star game, and it was really a big deal because pitchers just didn't get base hits in the All-Star games, and the National League Park and pitchers had to hit. And Nagy chopped one over to the third base side of the mound and ended up beating it out for a infield base hit that went about 45 feet. But I think you can count on fingers of one hand that modern era pitchers that got base hits in the All-Star game most of the time because they get pinch hit for or they don't bat in American League parks. But it's one of those distinctions that Charlie Nagy holds.
Absolutely. And looking at Brantley, when you look him up, 0 for 1, he got himself a couple of innings in there. And, hey, first of many to come. So fear not that Michael Brantley will not get plenty more opportunities to make some All-Star game memories. I saw Charles in the chat room before the show even started. He had made a comment. I still voted for Brantley for the All-Star game MVP. I said, well, hey, he got one vote then, So there you go. But Dr. Smooth makes his first All-Star appearance, kind of a perfect wrap-up of the first half for the Indians because he was the one Indian that stood head and shoulders above everybody else. So it was fitting that he made it there. Corey Kluber, obviously, a shame that he didn't, right behind him. No slight to him. But here they sit. I know I've already talked to Mike Brandenberry. Tomorrow he's going to come on and do a second half talk-through, look ahead with me, and you guys are not going to like. I'm just telling you now, you guys are not going to like where that conversation is going to go. He's already given me a few previews of where we're going. But with you, I'll do the same thing I did yesterday with Jeff Gorman. And looking back, when you and I did the final look through at the end of spring training, I've got it here. Dan Wismar had the Indians winning between 88 and 90 games and taking the wild card. So here they sit at the midway point, 47-47, which means they are 41 victories away from your 88 number right there with 69 to go in the second half. So that they would have to go 41-28 down the second half stretch. But where do you sit now? Do you still see that 88 wins as attainable?
Well, maybe. I obviously, I'm not sure about that at this point. I figured they'd be maybe 3 to 5 games over 500 come the All-Star break and wouldn't have to have that kind of a record in the second half in order to get to that point. So, I'd probably just tend to be more toward the low end or maybe mid-80s wins, 86, 87 wins. Now, the thing of it is you're competing for a wild card against really two teams. I guess you could say right now, the only team that has the second wild card ahead of you, one wild card certainly would be the LA Angels, and then Seattle's 51-44. But as far as competing for the second wild card, you're right in it right now. I have thought, going into the season, and most people agreed that the Indians were going to have to win the division to make the playoffs, just because it didn't. Usually in the East and or the West, you've got some higher caliber teams that aren't winning it that are going to snatch up those wild cards in order to get in. The Indians would have to win the division. I think it may still turn out that way, because you got to expect that maybe some teams like the Yankees or Seattle or even Kansas City is going to come up and play better in the second half than they did in the first, and give you some competition for that second wild card. Right now, it looks like either Oakland or LA, whichever one doesn't win that division, will surely grab one of those wild cards, and it's going to be tough to you're competing with the Kansas Cities, the Seattles, Yankees, Toronto, a couple other teams to snag that second wild card, and it's not going to be easy. You may still have to target winning that division in order to get in.
So here's what we've got. While you were saying that, I pulled up the wild card standings here because I wanted to look at it for myself anyway. And as you said, Angels, Mariners, they've got those top spots. Now, the Angels are 57-37, so the Tribe is a full 10 games behind the top. They're closer to the Central than they are to the top wild card spot. But Seattle, 51-44, Tribe right now, tied with the Yankees at 3.5 games out of that second wild card. Kansas City and Toronto right now both sit 1 game ahead of the Indians, 2.5 back. So you've got those 4 teams within 3.5 games of the second wild card. Then you've got a little bit of a drop-off. The next 2 are both from the Central, Chicago and Minnesota, but they're a full 3 games behind the Indians and the Yankees. The other teams are all 8 games or more back, and it's going to take a significant stretch run for those teams to get back into it. So let's just even use that as the cutoff there. You've got that puts double. You and I talked on Monday about this schedule and how Central Division heavy it is in the second half. That puts it double, because not only are those your division teams, but all of them there around you in either the division race or the wild card, because just a few games behind you is Chicago and Minnesota. And if they can't catch you, then they will take just as much pleasure in pulling you down out of there too. So very dangerous. But looking at those teams, you got the Royals, you got the Blue Jays, the Indians, and the Yankees. All teams with issues. Every one of them has some strengths where you go, I could see that team making a run, but they each have some issues too. So the second half is going to be really intriguing on how those teams shake themselves out. But right now, you're looking at a 6-team race for those 2 wild card spots.
Yeah, and Seattle has been playing well. Some of those teams are on a little bit of a slide. Certainly, Toronto is going the wrong direction right now in terms of the way they've been playing lately. But I think Kansas City is going to be there till the end, and I think Seattle is going to be there till the end. Those are probably, in my mind, the 2 biggest competitors for that second wild card, and I guess you'd have to look at possibly coming down to that 1 game playoff against an Angels or an Oakland team, that whichever one doesn't win that division. But you'd like to think that the Tribe has a big run in them, and that maybe the Tigers can cool off, and there's still a shot at winning it. But like we said the other day, that with the second half, you're not talking about 81 games to go; you're talking about 68, and that's tougher to make up ground with fewer ball games. So it's going to be hard to win the division, because you don't expect the Tigers to play sub 500 ball the rest of the way, and they sit 15 games over 500 right now. So you're going to have to do some serious to win that 88 games, 41-28, I guess it was 41-27. That's 14 games over. Tigers are 15 games over right now. Yeah. So even at the very best, you've got to hope that the Tigers play 500 ball or worse the second half to win the division, or to have, give us a chance to win the division. And I don't know, it's hard to envision the Tigers have played 15 games over the first 94 games to slump down to a sub 500 record the rest of the way.
The balance to that, though, the counter is the heads-up games that the teams have against each other, which is a difference maker in and of itself, you know. So, but you are right. The second wild card is clearly going to, I think, be the easiest path. I'm looking at Seattle. I'm not even looking at the Angels. They're red hot right now, 9-1 in their last 10. I'm looking at Seattle. They've played 537 ball in the first half. They've won 51. So let's just keep them on the same pace. They would, if they're on the same pace, 53% of the 68 games left would be 34, probably 38 wins, somewhere around 38 wins. So that would put
they're
Seattle,
an 89 win team then, yeah.
88, 89 wins, somewhere 88 or 89, I think. And that's assuming that they just play on the clip that they've played on all season long. 88 to 89 is going to be the target point you've got to get to, which means that's your number. The Indians will have to win 20, or they'll have to win 41 of the 68 that are remaining. 41 and 27. That's a lot to ask for, but it's doable. That's very similar to what they did in the second half of last season.
Yeah, that's right. Anyone who says it can't be done doesn't have to go back too far in history to see it being done.
Might be the same record.
10 helps a lot. But yeah, they did finish 22 games over 500 last year with that strong finish. So they were 12 games over before they even went on that 10-0 spurt. But you're right, it can be done. And as we said the other day, the schedule does favor the Indians down the stretch, especially that second half of September when they made that run last year. You're not exactly playing the 27 Yankees those last few games.
We talked about it. That month of September is setting up a lot like last year's, you know. And I will say, I do agree with Mike that one trade doesn't fix anything, but of all the ones that they could make, if they somehow could finagle an arm like David Price, I do think that with a lot of those weak teams that you'll have down the run, that could be the difference maker to swing that 2/3. Basically, you got to win 66% in the second half of the schedule. You have to. So it's going to take something like that. And I still say Justin Masterson's got to give you something. If you get nothing out of him in the second half, I don't think you have a chance, even if you traded for a David Price.
Well, I think that's right. And I did hear you talking, Mike, yesterday and kind of attributing to me the idea that we can do it without Masterson. I don't know that I necessarily said it that way, but I agree with you that you're right. You can't, you're not going anywhere if you can't get any better production out of him than you got, over the first 94. So there's certainly no disagreement between you and me on that score. You'd like to think that we have some depth in that starting pitching staff, but you're talking about unproven depth, the Salazar depth and that kind of, and even, you don't know what to expect from Trevor Bauer in the second half. As much as you've liked what he's done the first half, he hasn't done it for a whole season ever, and we don't know how he'll hold up to the dog days of August and the pennant drive in September.
Down.
So a lot of unknowns and too many unknowns really in that starting rotation to say with any confidence that you can do it without any significant contribution from Masterson. You really do have to get that.
Yeah, McAllister sent back down, throws even more kind of clouds of wonder into what's happening with this rotation. I mean, as much as you sit there and you go, yeah, David Price, Corey Kluber, 1 and 2, that's a hell of a 1-2 combo. But if the rest of it's giving you nothing, that's not going to be enough to push you into the playoffs. And even if it does, that's all it's going to do is get you to the dance. It's not going to take you home, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. And the goals certainly coming into this season were to get well past a wild card game like they were last year, and with the uncertainty that you've got in that rotation, it really is hard if you've got if you're not looking at it through tribe-colored glasses. It's really hard to project this team to advance very far in the playoffs if the rotation is as shaky as it's been.
So much more parity in the American League this year, too. I just happened to glance over at the National League wild card, and two of them, Washington and Atlanta, are fighting for the division lead, so one of them doesn't count. But they've pretty much got 5 teams even
within a game,
striking
yeah,
distance.
within a game.
Yeah, and then everybody else is 7 or back. Everything's way down there. So, and it's all the Central. It's all the NL Central that are all right there in the thing. It's basically whoever doesn't win the between Atlanta and Washington, San Francisco and the Central that's fighting it out for the 2 wild card spots there. So, but a lot more.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Washington, and Atlanta in the East, but they're tied. But you're right. St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh, and of course Milwaukee are currently in first place. But that's a 4-team race, and that's really promises to be one of the more exciting races coming down the stretch.
First half's been interesting. Second one's going to be even more fun. And the next 2 weeks will be a lot of fun for us as it's the gift that keeps on giving here, baseball sports talkers anyway, with the trade deadline coming up and all of that starting to I'm going to shift from baseball to football a little bit. I got 2 topics I wanted to touch on with you. The first one, Jimmy Haslam makes his settlement $92 million. Just on the surface, what's your thoughts on that whole thing? Now, it's obviously a good thing that it's over, but what are your thoughts on that? And do you think it's over?
I do think it's over because, first of all, one thing, and I have some friends that are attorneys, and they talk about the feds, and when the feds get involved, when the FBI raids your office and basically does an up against the wall kind of a raid and confiscate your computers and they've already been working on your case. They're not looking for evidence; they have evidence. When they raid your company headquarters and confiscate your computers, so they had evidence coming in to the Flying J investigation. They probably had witnesses. They probably had inside people that had already agreed to give testimony, and 10 or so employees or executives that had been let go, and several of them have pled guilty. If they had smoking gun evidence, if they had somebody who was willing to say, I was in a meeting with Jimmy Haslam and he knew about this, and here's what we called it in our inter-office communications, he would have been indicted already. And so the fact that they're doing this settlement with him and saying, okay, we'll take $92 million, he's not going to pay the $92 million without assurances that he isn't going to be personally prosecuted at some later date. And they don't offer that bargain if they have evidence that they could indict him with. So that tells me that they don't have that evidence to directly implicate Haslam, and that he is willing to, write a check for $92 million to make the whole thing go away. So, I think it is over, and I don't think this would be happening if there weren't assurances on both sides that, hey, this will wrap up this case. So at least that, waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of mode that we've been in for over a year as Browns fans is that our owner isn't going to be in jail or isn't going to be indicted criminally, going forward. So, I think there's a little relief for Browns fans and certainly some relief for the NFL, but they're not going to have to endure the public trial of one of their owners. I think this probably does put the thing to bed.
I'm in agreement with you totally, and I said I don't believe that the feds got into this whole thing to get money. This was not otherwise they wouldn't. Like you said, you don't go in and say, now everybody up against the wall. We want the file cabinets. They had diagrams. They said we want the blue file cabinet and we want the folders on the second shelf in the third office. They knew where everything was. They had this thing well calculated, and I agree with you. I'm not absolving Jimmy Haslam of guilt because I wasn't there and I don't know, but I definitely think that with that many other people that some of them will do some jail time over this, and with all the other things that I just don't see it as a case of Jimmy Haslam covering all of his bases. I mean, truly believe that no matter what, it wasn't there. Even if he did things, maybe he was that incredibly smart. But I mentioned the other day that I read a lot of that stuff, man. I get insomnia, and I'm up in the middle hours of the night. I do crazy things like read 140-page court documents and stuff, and I do, and that was one of them. And I went through this whole thing, and I'm like, you got a bunch of people who got caught doing stuff who agreed to turn on their boss and say that he knew about it if they got less jail time, but you don't have anything else. And I know I've watched enough episodes of Law and Order to know that that doesn't fly as far as trying to prosecute somebody. If all you've got is accomplice testimony, then you don't have anything that you're going to send somebody to jail for. And I thought that the whole time. I said, man, are they holding out? Is there secret evidence? And LG and I used to talk about that. I'm like, maybe there's like stuff we don't know about. Maybe there's more videos, and because they wired people up and they sent them back in to go get it. Usually that's how they catch Tony Soprano. They get the accomplice to wear the wire. He goes in and Tony Soprano spills the beans, but they never came away with anything. So that tells me that I think you had a lot of people who were tried to get out of it and tried to blame the biggest fish that they could, and the feds bought it and then realized that, hey, wait a minute, maybe this thing didn't go all the way to the top.
Yeah, well, it seems that the whole thing was started by a phone call from an anonymous, whistleblower kind of situation, and they knew that they had a systemic problem in the company, that this was something that was being practiced widely and being recommended for others to practice it among the sales force. But I guess they just were never able to go above the, vice president of sales or somebody in marketing and sales. They couldn't get up to, Mahogany Row executive level with enough proof. And this whole thing about, not having any evidence, the cynic would say, and maybe the realist, who knows, would say, well, there's a different level of justice for the billionaire in America than there is for the man on the street. And that's undoubtedly true. It helps to have $1 billion to pay the very best lawyers and put forth the very best defense. But, federal prosecutors, their batting average is about 975 in terms of getting, convictions when they indict and when they investigate. They don't take on cases that they have any intention of losing, and they usually don't lose. I mean, federal DAs, these guys don't lose cases. So they are able to prosecute, a number of people, 12 people, 10 executives, a few others. But this looks a lot like a punt, by the federal prosecutors to say, okay, we're going to save face by squeezing you for $90 million. But like you say, they don't go into these cases looking to fill the coffers with cash, with fine money. That's not what they're about. They're about getting convictions and going as high up the ladder as they can to get, the big fish, like you say. So I just think it's good for Cleveland and the NFL to have this thing sort of in the rearview mirror now. Sure, there was some political, pull. I mean, the Haslam's brother is the governor of Tennessee, right? And there's some other very influential people that are involved in the ownership of Flying J. But feds really don't care about that stuff. I'm convinced they go in with the intent to win, and they win a vast majority of their cases, and so they just couldn't reel in the big fish this time, and that's probably a good thing. And I'm sure that the NFL and Roger Goodell and these guys are breathing a sigh of relief that they're not going to have to go through this public spectacle somewhere down the line.
I agree with the Browns aspect. One thing that you said that I want to ask you, because I think I have a different feeling about it. When you said about, anybody would be foolish, exactly like you said, to not think that there are, just from being able to pay better lawyers, and that there are obviously benefits to having a truckload of money. But I think in 2014, it's actually worse for you if you're under an investigation or some type of a police where there may be charges. I think being a celebrity, whereas it used to help, I think it hurts now because it's so much more the urge to, like I said, get the big fish, but there is that urge to over-prosecute, to overcharge, to prove to the public that they're not going to get special treatment because they're a celebrity or an athlete or a politician or whatever, and you see them go hard in the opposite direction, whereas 20 years ago, they may go lighter because the guy is a respected guy in the community. Now, God forbid some newspaper does an article and says you gave so-and-so preferential treatment. So now they go the opposite way, and they prosecute sometimes the celebrity. I'm not saying that here, but I actually think today it hurts you more than it does help you, because now that's more likely to get, we saw even the thing with with people on social media, how quick these police stations will tweet things out when they arrest a celebrity or pull somebody over. I actually think that hurts more than if you were just the average person getting pulled over.
Yeah, you may be right that they want to avoid a negative public perception of what they're doing. I guess the classic case is O.J. Simpson, where because he was a celebrity and loved by fans and things like that there was a lot of public sympathy for him. In fact, obviously there were people who refused to believe that he was guilty right down to when the glove don't fit. There may be some of that, but a guy like Jimmy Haslams, who's a billionaire corporation CEO, not a lot of public sympathy for guys like that, and so I don't think they needed to be hard on him to counter the public perception that he was just an all-around good guy, and we really shouldn't be bothering him with this. So yeah, it depends on how much sympathy a potential candidate or potential criminal, I guess you'd say, would get from the public in terms of how aggressive the prosecution might be to counter a public perception of a guy. So, but you may be right that they sometimes will bend over backwards to not create the appearance that they are favoring someone because he's wealthy.
I know Martha Stewart, Bernie Madoff wish they could have wrote $92 million checks and saved themselves a little bit of jail time there. Although there's differences. Exactly right. I'm being sarcastic. I'm totally comparing apples to oranges here. I was just being sarcastic with that. But I want to stay on the Browns before I let you go, because Monday, we were talking and that stupid swagger came out. And I mean, to a man, my phone, my text messages, everything I've gotten the last couple of days has been swagger. Are you serious here? I'm like, I know, trust me. We even talked about it on the show. They got to do something else. And I've been telling people your idea about Hanford. And, we were joking and expanding on the show. I've been thinking about it, Dan, for the last couple of days. And I'm like, man, Dan is right on the cusp of something with that idea. And I was thinking, I was thinking about Big Dog, Little Dog, and you could have a pair of them. And they'd be, the mascots, and you could give them the names. Like we were talking about Hanford and Minnie. And then I said, no matter whether you had one dog or two, what would be cool was, how I know they keep the same name with Georgia. It's Uggo 1, 2, 3, whatever, however they keep the differences. But as the dogs pass on or as they get replaced, I thought, man, what would be kind of cool would you could, just like you said, Hanford as tribute, like that would be the first one. And then the next one could be Big Jim in honor of Jim Brown. And then the next one could be Mean Gene in honor of Gene Hickerson. And you could even, each time an animal retires or passes away and you're renaming the next one, you could put it up to a fan vote. You could give them 3 or 4 or 5 of the great ones, and it becomes almost like tradition. And it's like, just like you add names to the Circle of Honor, it's like, which of the greats has the mascot dog been named after? I thought that would be kind of a cool way to honor the past and involve the fans and your legacy and all of that. I don't know. What do you think about expanding on your idea there?
Well, yeah, I think it's great. And after I talked, by the way, I can't claim credit for originating the idea for Hanford. I blatantly stole it from some guy on Twitter. But I did see some other good ideas later on in the day. And like you say, going back to some Hall of Famers. I mean, how could it be more perfect name for a dog than Otto? You know? That would be cool. Otto. Yes. And then Lou, as in Groza, or even name him Groza, something like that.
Yeah, Groza.
Use the last name. So, but I love the idea of Otto. I mean, that made a lot of sense to me. And Leroy, some of those things where you could get some guys straight out of not Cooperstown, but Canton, and slap those names on your dog. But yeah, I like the idea of involving it with the tradition of the team to name the dog, definitely. Whether you go with Hanford, which makes a lot of sense, or if you go farther back in time and go with an Otto or a Lou or something like that. But I like the idea of realizing at the outset that it's going to eventually be more than one dog if this thing continues on for years. And and you could involve the fans in naming the mascot, et cetera. But I hope the team has gotten the message from social media and from just fan reaction to the swagger thing that they need to maybe go back to the drawing board and start rethinking this.
No, I have not seen well, I guess I can say I've seen some people that like it, but they're those people that, no offense, like everything that the Browns do. The Browns sneeze, and they go, that was the best sneeze I've ever seen, And
right.
So they like swagger, but anybody that's a discerning person, I haven't seen anybody go, yeah, that was a great. Some people say it's a great idea to have the dog, and I'm with that. I'm like, hey, I can get with that because Uga is obviously iconic at this point, but that kind of works. And I know Jimmy Haslams bought into it hook, line, and sinker because he's a college guy. He's a rah-rah kind of guy. You know what I mean? He loves that atmosphere. So I could see him being right with the idea of a dog, an actual dog mascot, So I'm okay with that. But I am not okay with naming that thing Swagger, man.
Yeah, that's like we talked the other day, about Joe Hayden talking about it's going to be a real fight for you to win the championship first. Instead of naming your dog Swagger, let's go 8-8 first, and then we'll talk about it and see if we have any swagger.
I got to tell you, Dan,
and we'll get there.
I'm racing you to $1 million. I'm just going to tell you that right now, man. I'm racing you to $1 million. I think I'm going to beat you to it.
I'm working on my second million because I already gave up on the first one.
You already gave up on the first one. There you go, man.
Right.
Oh, man. Dan Wismar, my man. I'll tell you what, man. Today's all right, for a slow news day. We found a way to get through it, though. But would you agree with what I said at the beginning of the show? To most people, especially in the media, these actual days here of this week, especially today and tomorrow, just that one point where everything's dead. Nothing is happening. Everybody's off, and there's just nothing really going on until you hit Friday, and then at least baseball picks back up, and then we get back into the groove.
Right. Well, it used to be a great trivia question that there were, there's 2 days in the calendar year when there is no NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, or National Hockey League game. None of the 4 major sports. There's only 2 days a year where none of those 4 major sports has a game. And those 2 days are the day before and the day after the All-Star game. Monday and Wednesday. Now, Major League Baseball has added a third day. They have no games scheduled for Thursday. They used to schedule some games on Thursday of All-Star game week.
You're right.
But this year, there are none. So now it's 3 days a year where there are no games in professional sports, and it's all during this week, the Monday, the Wednesday, and the Thursday of All-Star Game week. And so you're right. It's as slow gets in terms of pro sports.
You know it, man. I didn't even realize that. That's it. So we're on day 2, everybody listening. We are on day 2 of the 3 days of the year where nobody is playing any sport for money, at least not of the major sports. And even then, like I was looking around, I mean, I don't think there's even a golf tournament right now or a NASCAR race today or a tennis tournament, a big major one going on to where even any of those secondary sports are doing anything over these couple of days. There's really nothing.
Well, I did notice on ESPN when I checked it today that there's a WNBA game in progress right now as we speak. So, like I said, no major sports.
We had to dig down to get to the WNBA. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I like that. But, I mean, yeah, there you go. So, Dan Wismar, hey, before we go, trivia. Do you have anything for us today?
Sure, I got a trivia for you, and I'm going to just break away. We've been doing a lot of tribe trivia. I'm going to give you a little OSU trivia, and there were on the 2005 Buckeyes. So we're not going back too far in history. The 2005 Buckeyes on their roster, 6 wide receivers that would eventually play in the NFL. Pretty rare. Receivers. There were 6 of them on that 2005 team that played in the NFL. And I can fact you or message you those names here as soon as we get off the phone. But name those 6 wide receivers on the 2005 Buckeyes that played in the NFL. That's my trivia for today.
You could fax them. You sure you don't want to wire them over?
Oh no, did I say fax? I meant the message.
I'm joking. You could teletype them to me. You want to send them on a telegram? I mean, however you want.
A telex, I think is what we'll go with.
Telex. Okay, so 2005 Ohio State Buckeyes. There were 6 wide receivers on that team that played in the NFL, right? That's what we're looking for?
That's right.
All right, I will have your answer from Dan when we come back on the other side of the break. Dan, enjoy your couple of days with no sports, and then Indians get back at it, and it's a hot and heavy, full force from here, less than 70 to go. We'll catch back up on Monday.
Okay, sounds good, Jerry. Talk to you later.
All right, my man, Dan Wismar. As always, you guys, check him and his compatriots out at theclevelandfan.com. We're going to take a break. When we come back, final segment. They say everything's bigger in Texas. Let me tell you, they're not lying. I don't even know how I found this, but a little funny close to the show. Some new menu items for the Texas Rangers fans. When we come back, we'll talk about that. We'll wrap things up. Your chance to get in on the phones, 216-539-7535. Last chance, 216-539-7535, the number to call. Trivia question. The answer on the other side of the break. 2005 Ohio State Buckeyes had 6 wide receivers that all went to play in the NFL. Name those wide receivers. I'll have the answer when we come back. You're listening to The Sports Fix, live on thesportsfix.net. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, baby.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get them away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Before we go to the break, guys, I want to talk to you just a second about our friends at GV Art and Design. Baseball's here once again. Cleveland, of course, excited, and GV Artwork teaming up with the Indians, and they're both going to knock it out of the park this season. And listen to some of the new designs they've got for Cleveland baseball fans everywhere. They've dug out an old classic, and they're bringing the heat with the new Wild Thing, Give 'em the Heater Ricky design. GV Artwork is teaming up with Cleveland fan favorite Michael Brantley and created a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt. Plus, don't forget, they've got the Cleveland That I glove collection, new tribal and Cleveland That I love designs for women, and so much more. You can get GV Artwork designs on the website, gvartwork.com. And don't forget to use the sales code FIX10. That's FIX10, and you'll save 10% on your purchase. Or you can check out their new store in Lakewood on Detroit Avenue. Check them out in the Indians team shops and so much more. Cleveland That we all love, GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You this good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
I've been a pro wrestler my whole life, so championship belts have always kind of been a way of life to me. But did you know title belts are quickly becoming the fastest rising and the most popular new way for people to celebrate all kinds of things you never would have thought of before? We use it for our fantasy football league. It's a really cool conversation piece. Office pools, employee of the month, you name it. There's tons of different trophies that you used to buy plaques for. Well, I'm here to tell you about Pro-Am Championship belts, who have the highest quality championship belt with the lowest prices. Replace those old trophies with stock belts on hand that they can customize for as low as $30. Any occasion, celebrations, awards, championships, fantasy leagues, gifts, plus wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing. If you need championship belts, check them out. Pro-Am Championship Belts, ProAmBelts.com. Look them up on Facebook, Pro-Am Belts. Trust me, nothing says cool like doing the discount double check with a real championship belt. Just ask Aaron Rodgers. Now you too can have one thanks to Pro-Am Championship Belts.
Hey, you guys are rocking with Reggie Germany, former wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills and Ohio State Buckeye. You're rocking with the Sports Fix.
Yeah. Boo. You know how we do it. West side. Coming from the west side.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live here, final segment of the show on the sportsfix.net, on TuneIn and Spreaker and Mixler, live worldwide on digital delay 24/7 on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio network, on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, all the podcast formats, all the ways you've joined us, downloaded us, listened to us, streamed us live, however you've done it today. Thank you guys. J-Rocc back with you here, rolling back into the show. Before we go on, I've got a text message just coming in here. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan asked before the break, what were the group of half a dozen wide receivers on the 05 Buckeyes roster who went on to play in the NFL? The list that he sent me: Ted Ginn, Santonio Holmes, Anthony Gonzalez, Roy Hall, Brian Robisky, we know him all too well, and Brian Hartline. Those are the 6 wide receivers he listed as having played in the NFL. Man, that's some wide receiver depth at the college level. I mean, we know some went on to do and some went on to do less in the NFL. But anyways, Dan Wismar, always good for a trivia question or two here, Mondays and Wednesdays when he joins us on the Sports Fix, guys. Phone lines are open for the last couple of minutes of the show, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. We'll talk about it more tomorrow when John McMullen from the Sports Network joins us, but I'm looking at some crazy stuff coming out of this. Greg Hardy, the domestic violence, or actually it was assault on a female, was the charges he was found guilty of here with his trial going on down there. John McMullen from the Sports Network going to join us. I don't want to talk too much about it because I was actually just reading some of this stuff during the break, but some crazy exchanges here during the testimony and in the courtroom. John McMullen from the Sports Network will be here. He's usually here on Mondays. He'll be here tomorrow. We'll talk about that. I want to talk to him about all the latest going on around the NFL here this week. Looking forward to that. Hey, while we're looking ahead to tomorrow, Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTryWinLastNight.com. He'll be here as well. As I said, some of you may not like to hear what he's got to say tomorrow, because I'm telling you, he's being honest. His assessment of the Indians, it's not all gloom and doom, but it's not all sunshine and parades either. So Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTryWinLastNight.com looking ahead with me tomorrow to the second half of the Cleveland Indians season. I can't wait to that. Wrapping things up today, it was actually in the course of doing some baseball. I was looking up some research, and it was the Rangers. Something, I don't know. It was one of those, you see something on the side and you click on it and then you find it's something you weren't even looking for. Rangers looking to make some mid-season additions. Now, of course, they're mired in the middle of a last place, very expensive last place season. Don't know what they're going to do on the roster, but they have made some additions to the food lineup. And you guys, we talk about these from time to time. They say everything's bigger in Texas. I was joking with that before the break, but not when I look at these things. These are not regular menu items here at all. Some of these things that I'm looking at, the poutine potato chip nachos, which are a giant bowl of freshly deep fried potato chips topped with creamy Texas style gravy, bacon, cheddar cheese, and choice of shredded brisket or chicken on top of it, and then finished off with some pickled jalapenos. This thing is not at all appetizing looking or sounding from the picture that I'm looking at, but that wasn't the thing that drew my interest. That was just the appetizer of the article here. They have introduced, starting with the second half of the season, the Tanaco, which is a 2-foot-long taco shell made fresh at the ballpark. Order it filled with beef or chicken before it's topped with shredded lettuce, nacho cheese, pico de gallo, jalapenos, sour cream. It is a giant baseball bat-shaped 2-foot-long taco. I'm looking at a picture of this thing. It is humongous. First off, how do you walk around a stadium? You guys know when a stadium's full, and they draw there. Stadium's full every night, even with a bad season. You don't have. How many times do you bump into people? I'm telling you, and I know I'm a big guy, but man, I walk around and I'm shoulder to shoulder with people the whole way through. How the hell do you walk around with a 2-foot-long breakable taco in your hand, let alone trying to eat this thing? It's like holding up, sitting there. I mean, I'm telling you, you're lining it up in your sights to take a bite out of this, and that's the new ones. As I was looking at that, I found out that that's not the first 2-foot-long thing that they've got in Texas. The Rangers have the boomstick, and I think we talked about this one in the wintertime. This may have been the one that they added before. It's a 2-foot-long hot dog, man. I mean, how do you walk around eating? I mean, because you can't hold it down like a bag, so you have to hold it horizontally. Vertically, it's not going to work, whether you're talking about a taco or a hot. Are you with me, guys? Somebody explain this to me. How in the hell do you even carry around this thing without it being damaged, broken, or dropped by the time you get to your seat? And that's just one person, let alone if there's a couple thousand people walking around with 2-foot tacos going around, taking people's eye out with some taco shells, and then add the boomstick people, and somebody's going to commit felonious assault with a food item before this thing is said and done. And that's, I don't even know what some of these other things are, but the rest of the article talked about some of the other things that they've added in the last year here. The Kaboom Kebab, which is, again, what is it with 2 feet long thing? I mean, everything clearly bigger in Texas. This is a 2-foot-long skewer. It's a whole chicken. A whole chicken kebab, not little pieces of chicken on a shish kebab. This is a 2-foot-long skewer with pieces enough to counter up to a whole chicken. Unbelievable. They may not have some good baseball going on in Texas this year, but they got some good eating at the ballpark, even if I still cannot figure out for the life of me how you get back to your seat, walking around trying to protect a 2-foot and what if you got kids with you? How you can't even hold the hand because your kid's going to get swiped from you because you're trying to protect your taco, man. Tell you what, man, what's happening in this crazy world we live in, fellas? I know what's happening. The music's playing. It's time for the end of another show. Wednesday, Hump Day. It's over like that. Who's the man? I'll wait a second. Thank you very much. Guys, great show today. Good time as always. Thanks to Dan Wismar for joining us, and thanks to each and every one of you. As we say all the time, man, hey, without you, there is no show here. I'm just a guy talking to myself on a microphone. So thank you guys for being with us today. Tonight, enjoy a whole lot of nothing. Nothing. Unless you're an NBA or WNBA fan. You've got nothing to watch tonight. So good luck with that. Come back and talk to us about absolutely nothing tomorrow. John McMullen from the Sports Network, he'll be with us talking some NFL and some Browns with him. Can't wait to catch up with John. Can't wait to catch up with Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com as we look ahead to the second half of the season. Not going to be pretty. Not going to be pretty. But it's going to be fun, as always. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Him and I just see it differently. But the Indians got some work to do. I don't care how I see it. You got to win 66% of your games to make me look smart. It's a much safer bet to go with the lower estimate. We'll see. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Guys, get back here. Same bat time. Same bat channel. Yes, Charles. That's what that. I'm not even going to say it out loud because I don't know who's listening in the room. But yes, that means you've actually got to talk to people in the house tonight. There's no games to hide behind. Family time tonight, everybody. I can hear people going, man, maybe they don't know that game's on DVR. I'll pretend like it's fresh. Anyways, guys, have some fun tonight. Come back and join us tomorrow live. Same bat time, same bat channel here on the Sports Fix. We're not going anywhere. We're 5 days a week. We're not going anywhere. We'll be here. Love you, Cleveland. We'll see you tomorrow. Guys, great show today. Having some fun. We'll have some more tomorrow live on the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland. We'll see you.
More to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra.
Hey. We rep our city. Blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. We're sick fitted. Could pass over any city that we visited. When the up on Cleveland. Survivals are must on these streets. We hustle, don't sleep. Out here in Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland.
You know that
I'm here again with Bill O'P.